Hello, everybody. It's August the 8th, 2025, coming to you live from Tulsa, Oklahoma. It is Into the Fire. Your host, Jason White. We have an epic guest tonight, a real friend of mine, Doug Chachere Jr. from the Chachere Spice Company, Tony Chachere's. I call him the Spice King, and that's just what he is to me. And I'm probably the Tulsa King to him. But anyway, he's going to be a lot of fun tonight. Welcome, everybody. It is really an honor to have you here tonight. I'm seeing that the room is filling with a lot of the regulars, and I love it. And both on YouTube and on Rumble, they're catching us. I love it. I just spent the last 2 days speaking at the Hard Rock Casino in Catoosa. So I'm to tell you the truth, I'm a little wore out. That kind of wears you out, believe it or not. And there I am there at the casino. I did 2 4-hour stints, and my speaking engagements through the remainder of the year are, I've got a lot of different locations that I'm going to include California, Arkansas, North Carolina, Tennessee, and that should finish up the year. But there's kind of my speaking areas to take us out in the year, and then while I was speaking at this conference, the way I see it is that if you do a really good job, then it tends to bring people up to you. And so from doing that, my next year's schedule may include those states. So Montana, Idaho, Kansas, New Jersey, Texas, and that's just for the organizations that happen to see me speak, and they seem to be excited, and I'm excited to hear that. And you never know, you might see me in your state down the line if you're listening from one of those states, and that would be that'd be fun. I wanted to mention something that's a little bit sad news, and I think most people probably already know this, but last Sunday, one of my dear friends, Detective John Brown, he passed away, and I'll tell you that John was somebody that I had worked with in that unit for probably around 13 years, and just a really, really good guy. And I wanted to just share with people that he had been battling for probably close to 5 years, if not over 5 years, with cancer. And he's just one of those guys that he did not really want that to be public at the time. So now the cat's out of the bag. And quite frankly, I'd rather people knew that, because I didn't want them to speculate that it was something different. But it was something that plagues a lot of people and hits a lot of families, and it's definitely hit ours. And I'll just say this, that heaven has gained a really good person, that's for sure. And he's definitely going to be missed by myself and many others. I just want to finally say, with respect to that, and actually Doug has met him. Doug has cooked him up some Cajun cuisine. And I know John talked a lot about that. He really loved it. But I'll just say this. I can't say enough to the people that have sent me. I've probably received hundreds and hundreds of messages. I've tried to respond to absolutely every one of them. And it's really, it means a lot to not only myself, but to the unit and to his family, that he had such an impact on so many people out there. So thank you all very much. That's there's just never a good time for it. And fortunately for our squad, we had time to actually spend with him. And I'm glad we did, because we were told that he had a lot longer to go, but it kind of crept up on us real quick. So we got to visit with him. I think it was Thursday or Friday, that just a few days before he had ended up passing away. So nevertheless, I own a car. I bought a car from him. So I think about him I can't help but think of him every time I get into that car. I see it in the garage. So anyway, now tonight, really good guest. I'm really stoked about it. And this is a guy that he's kind of he's somebody that not only that I got to meet a couple of years ago, we've become friends. I've stayed at his house. I've saw him over at I've stayed at his place down in Orange Beach, Alabama. I've had him in my home, and he's just a really, really good person. And I'm excited about sharing him with you and so forth. And I'm going to get here and I'm going to give you his intro right quick. Basically, Doug Chachere Jr., he was born in Creole, Louisiana. And yes, Louisiana spelled right, Doug. I fixed it. But he he was born there in 1966. Then he was raised in Opelousas, Louisiana. And I don't know that you can become more Cajun than that, coming from Creole, Louisiana. His earliest memories are tied to the family business, which is Tony Chachere's Creole Seasoning, which began production in 1972. And at the age of 6, he recalls weekend gatherings where family members pitched in to make a pack of seasoning cases. A pivotal memory involves their uncle Alex Chachere gifting them and their younger brother each $5 for their efforts, a gesture that instilled a sense of ownership and pride in the brand that continues to drive their passion today. Doug is the third generation to contribute to the family's success, while the fourth generation is already actively involved in the business. After years as a regional sales manager, Doug transitioned into direct work with brand influencers, leveraging their knack for connecting with people. And I'm telling you, Doug is a people person for sure, a skill they value as a collector of people. Since 1993, Doug and his family have been based in the Houston area, driven by a desire to carve his own mark on the company's enduring legacy. Doug's narrative paints a vivid picture of a life interwoven with family, flavor, and a deep-seated pride in the brand that has brought the taste of Louisiana to kitchens worldwide and much, much more. And I'll tell you something, if you've ever went into a Walmart and you haven't seen this product, or I can't even think of a store that this product's not in, then you have to be blind, because it's right there, right in the middle of all of the other spices. And let's bring Doug on.
Hey.
How are you, my friend? Very, very interesting life. I'm good. Welcome.
Yeah, my I guess first off, condolences to Detective Brown's family and all his friends over there. A couple times I met him, I told my wife, and he said he looks so nice. I said he reminds me of a very sweet grandfather, but he was always very gentle. The two times I ran across him, and of course I wasn't sitting across the table being interrogated, so it's a lot different. But just good-hearted man, very gentle.
Yeah, he is. He really was. And I think that, I'll tell you what, they really don't know us, behind it. They know me because I come on here and I talk about me. If they came on here, they'd learn about me. But John was kind of private. He really didn't even watch the episodes. He really wasn't into them. At least he claimed he didn't. And but I'll tell you this, anytime we would have visitors that would come up there, and I don't care who they were, he always would drop what he was doing, and he would ask questions, and he always was very, very just generous with his time with people, and that's really saying something. So he will definitely be missed.
Now, I also wanted to mention that I moved my family, my kids. We moved to Houston area. Now, the whole Chachere family didn't leave Opelousas. They're still there. But I like to say I was exiled to Texas in 1993.
Yeah, there's actually a factory that your factory is in Opelousas. So if people go there, there's a gift shop there that they could go in. Do they give tours too?
Yeah, now it's we have a glass wall and you can see, and there's a film room and all that, and it used to be a lot different. You used to be able to walk this or walk that with coats on, but man, just the rules of how you, with food safety, it's changed so much over the years,
Yeah.
Very much so, since from when it started to where it is now.
So tell the viewers how this business let's just start off with your childhood, because all of you guys lived like right there in the same neighborhood, right?
Yeah, my grandfather had one child, his youngest, that passed from leukemia, I think in '67. But everybody lived. The five remaining kids, they lived, and their families. Four of them lived in our neighborhood. My grandfather had this, and Opelousas is a big funeral home on the Highway 182 on the south side of Opelousas, and it used to be their house. And but it was their house when my dad like went off to Riverside Military Academy. So yeah, they actually went off. That was a threat when I was growing up. But if you didn't act right. But I that was their house, and then they ended up selling that, and all of the land behind it ended up selling off to people that. But if there were, if there were 20 houses in the neighborhood, 6 of them were sasheries, So I mean, there was everybody was there with the exception of one uncle that lived in Baton Rouge, and we came and went from each house. That's we talk about how recipes. Now we have a food scientist that does an amazing job, and but back then it was my grandfather. Everything that he developed, and we'd go over to my grandfather's before the days of Post-it notes, and he'd have a Ziploc bag or a couple of them with spices and maybe rice and another thing, and it'd be a little note taped on it and said, "Hey boy, bring this to your mom," and we called him Pawpaw, and I'm assuming it's because one of my older cousins could not pronounce Pawpaw, so that's how he got the name. So
Well, so you guys and so originally didn't he come up with like a cookbook, and you didn't even have the spice yet, and then it kind of came from there. Is that right?
yeah, the book was out first. I mean, he had went all over the world and cooked here and there, and they had a supper club where the guys would meet every once a week, and then once a month they'd have the wives, and that seasoning everywhere. And when they would take turns cooking, when it was his turn to cook, he'd use his spice, and they said, well, the recipe for the seasoning was in the first cookbook, and the original version, and well, why don't you come out with the seasoning? And that history, had built a company, that
Yeah.
spice, and
Right.
yeah, that's how that happened.
So when that I think I'd heard somewhere. I did a little bit of research on you. So originally, was that spice kind of bottled in glass, and that's kind of how that
It
was
was
sold?
glass. It was in the glass. Me and my brother, like I said, my family, we would go down there, like you mentioned, on the weekend, and we would take those bottles and put them in cases, and the whole family was down there on the weekend doing that, and it slowly grew. I mean, I can remember that our old facility now we use for storage, or in our training kitchen is there. But when I was a kid, I mean, we only used a portion of that building, and then the rest of it was old offices and stuff. I've been paying into Social Security since I was 13 years old. They'd send us back there to sweep when we were a kid. You could do no damage that way, I guess. But yeah, it's then we added on to that building, and uh, years ago, Home Depot opened in town when the racetrack did, and so did Lowe's. And this is the first store that Home Depot sold, and we jumped on it, and because we went from like 30,000 square feet to 120 something real quick, and it's bigger than that today. So
Yeah, and just I don't know if Amanda sometimes throws stuff up when I'm talking and giving the intro, but this is the spice that we're talking about, Tony Chachere's, and it's probably in many of your kitchens today. And yeah, there you go. That's a better picture. So when that thing started up, and you guys were starting, the thing I kind of found interesting, because one of my questions when I first met you was, hey, did you go to the other spice companies and like Tabasco, because Tabasco's on Avery Island there in Louisiana, and you tell us a little bit about that. They kind of were encouraging, and
yeah, that we like not when we, I don't know anything when we first started when my grandfather set that up, but when we were moving into the new facility, and we wanted it to be state of the art, because you're dealing with food, you want to be first class. And the thing about Tony Chachere products is we don't get, third hand product here or spice here or here. We bring in the best from our country and from around the world with, natural, whoever has the natural resource. Like, in black pepper, the only place on earth, people don't realize this, but the only place on earth you can get black pepper is the Malabar coast of India. Now, Cambodia and Vietnam are starting to develop some of that themselves, but the original and the best comes from India. So, to get all that stuff, and look, I veered off the original question you asked me, but to
Well, I was asking you.
about
No, I
text,
want,
yes,
but I want to hear that because that's kind of interesting to me, and I don't know that you've ever told me that. So, I
yeah,
mean, so you're just not like running down and grabbing some black pepper in
no,
bulk
it's
off the shelves. You're getting it
we
from where?
we've been very premium on our product. Not so much on the shelf because you'd find it's probably cheaper in a lot of situations, but we deal with a lot. We deal with a lot of bulk, So but the you can't find better than what we put in our product. And but talking about when we went to the people of the McElhenney family, they were really good working with my cousins and on getting the newest state of the art machinery and everything like that. They had a good eye for it because they had just changed some things and uh, how it's made or micro. One of them did a thing over there, and they go into the facility and it's very much the same thing. I mean, but they gave us some good pointers. The old man passed away that ran it, but they were good to us for years, man.
Yeah, and when did you guys really just start hitting basically all the stores? Because honestly, I can't remember a time when I haven't seen it in our kitchen growing up. I mean, really,
Yeah, it's been the book came out in 71, 72, and the seasoning was about 74. So it steadily, steadily, steadily grew, after that. And I mean, we had my grandfather had an old GMC Jimmy that was painted with the Tony Chachere logo, and you'd put cases in the back of that, and they'd run to stores and sell the stores direct. And it's changed so much. I mean,
yeah,
I used to go out in vans and when I was a kid, and you'd sell the store and whatever you could put in a van. I mean, you had to very much like a musician. They do their trailer. You had to know how to play Tetris, or what you wanted
hmm,
loaded in there, what sold the most, and all that. And God, that's come so far, But 50 years will do that to you, man. You know.
yeah. And every one of these that you see, is every one of these made from Opelousas?
Yeah, every single one of them. The spice and herb, the more spice, the bold, the original, and there's the no salt, which absolutely has no salt. I hear people talking sometimes and they'll say, well, this has too much salt. I'm like, well, we have one that has no salt. So, take your pick. Spice and herb
Right.
is more of a, people in its bulk form, it's our blackening seasoning. And so it's more, I love it on fish and on pasta dishes. But I have friends that that's their number one on all of them. So they use it all the time on everything. And we're always looking to expand that.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And then so from there, when you started out in the business, from when you were sweeping in the warehouse and you're doing this and that, you finally hit the road and you started cooking in stores. And tell us a little bit about that because I think that's interesting.
Well, I know some people thought, you're born with a silver spoon. And we pretty much beat over the head with it with family, but it was good. You learned what to do and what not to do. And I when I was a kid, man, I did I did every job at the warehouse. I mean, I worked upstairs. Now at the new facility, we have a silo, a couple of them that deliver salt and everything. Look, when I was a kid, my back was the silo. We started on pallets, lifting 80-pound bags of salt off of those pallets and putting them up on the butcher boy that would blend everything. And you went up and down on pallets all day, lifting with your back.
Hmm.
We're supposed to lift with your legs, but kids don't listen. But yeah, we did that, did all those jobs, man. And eventually got out where they would put me with the salesman, and go there. And then that was a great advantage I had. I was able to do that and ride with the salesman and attend conventions and stuff like that. And it got me very locked in. I'm very thankful for my Uncle Alex on putting me on some of those points. My dad pushing me to go to work there, and my Uncle Alex getting me on a lot of those things. He ran our company for a good long time, but that's how it all started. And I eventually I was working for a company in Lafayette, and eventually when I was going to come back, I thought about it. Working with family is not always the easiest thing in the world, and you can't have too much you can't have too much family in a company because most companies don't last as many generations as we're only going into our fourth, but a lot of them are going after the first and second generation. Well, I wanted to go somewhere that we didn't already have a can of seasoning on every shelf at the time. At the time, we didn't over here in Houston. Actually, I thought I was going to go to Atlanta, and I ended up in Houston. I'm very glad I did because my parents are 90 and 91 and only 4 hours away. So, but yeah, I came to Houston and went out, met met a lot of people. I give you with a lot of different chains, but Walmart in particular, I worked with when they were just Division One stores. They call them hometown stores or now or whatever. The original Walmart. Then when they started doing the super centers, every single one of them in Texas, with the exception of the Hypermart, which was already open in Garland, Texas. I went to every grand opening, every single one, and those guys, God bless them, had some mentors over here with that company. They really took me in because they kept seeing my face over and over and over again, and then we would get invited to their year-end show, which I mean, I don't know how many 100,000 vendors Walmart has. We might have been 6 of us that got invited, and
Really?
yeah, we'd go and fry turkeys, and those guys that I knew would come and introduce me to regional managers, district managers, and what they call them market managers now, from all over the country. And that really, 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 really helped. Made some
Yeah.
good friendships along the way, and we were able to do a lot of business. Because when things came up like the hurricanes or or COVID, my grandfather always said, "Go out and put a hand in a hand and shake a hand, not just call somebody and pick up a phone when you want something." We can do that with people that we've been around. Like in the situation COVID, we had to, but to start and maintain those relationships, I still do it every year. I go and drive around and stop in and see people. And
That's Tony Chachere in that painting behind you. That's a huge that's a huge picture of his grandfather in his house, which is it's awesome. I mean, it's awesome. And so that's my wife there. Hey, I'll tell you what, I think that's awesome. You drive probably more than anybody that I've ever known, Doug. You're always driving from you don't fly.
I retired from flying in 1999. I went with the John Madden philosophy. I
Yeah.
just don't, and it's not the fear of the crash. It's just that I'd feel better if I was flying the plane. Of course, we'd all perish if I did. But I like driving. I don't like being cooped up, man.
Now, do you go to all 50 states, you personally?
Well, I don't go to Alaska and I don't go to Hawaii. I'm waiting for them to build that bridge in Hawaii. But
But you go to
yeah,
you go to the 48 that are do you literally drive to all 48?
I mean, I go to most of them. I haven't been to Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, and anything north of Niagara Falls. Everywhere else I've been. So when I
God,
do these,
crazy.
but when I do these rides too, now when I was a kid, I couldn't, because my dad told me, put your head down and bust your tail for 5 years. He didn't mean stop after that, but he said it'll make it a lot easier on you. And he's right, because I built those relationships up with people
Mhm.
over time. Every year every weekend for the first 5 years I was here, I cooked in stores, cooked in stores, cooked in stores, cooked in stores. And but it's yeah, my wife keeps telling me I can take a cruise too, but I have I had friends of mine. There's a cruise called Shiprocked that a lot of musicians go on, and there's a bunch of them that they do this, but Shiprocked is a pretty big one. And CJ Pierce from Drowning Pool was showing me some pictures from their trip, and wow, that looks fantastic. And he patted me on the shoulder. He goes, "Nah, Doug, it's not for you," because he knows that I don't like being claustrophobic. So it's a
Yeah,
weird thing.
and you got to get over that on a ship, man.
Yes, you do.
Those rims are tight. But so you were out there doing that, and then finally did somebody come to you and say, hey, I mean, the world changed, so I'm sure you just weren't able to just start cooking up stuff. But what a way to get your product out there, and I'm sure that the products were, I mean, that was really putting the word out there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, and you could do that. A lot of stuff you can't do today. But
Yeah.
now you can go to Sam's or something to do it. But most of the times in stores they don't allow that anymore. It's a lot different. But yeah, it opened a lot of doors for me, and it pushed our products. So that was good. But when those guys couldn't get other people's product out of New Orleans because of Katrina had hit, they get Tony Chachere's, and trust me, there's a thing called 90 typing. In other words, stores today, it used to be you could just go in and write your label out and put you a nice little space on the shelf. Well, you can't do that anymore. 3 or 4 times a year, depending on the chain. Sometimes it's two, but usually 3 or 4 with grocery. They do a reset, a modular reset. In other words, that shelf is planned. Everything is spaced out exactly right for all these products. Different regions, different items. Um, well, after Katrina hit, and they couldn't get a bunch of products from our competitors and some other stuff. They would tell me, Doug, I don't care if it's not if it's in our system or not. We'll just 90 type it. Which if a store manager did that nowadays, or even back then, they'd pretty much lop his head off for doing it. But in that situation, because the customer demand was off the chain, they did. So all those little tiny situations eventually built up, and it helped us build a good repertoire with those companies.
Yeah. Have you noticed a difference? And we'll move on to something else pretty quick. But have you noticed a difference in? And by the way, if you're just joining us, this is episode number 61. We're with Doug Chachere Jr., the Spice King, and well, you are to me, buddy. So, but anyway, have you noticed a difference between the managers from back in the day to today with the generation changes? Without saying anything that's gonna,
No, I mean, look, man, look, those guys that run those stores, they're under a lot of pressure to to make profit on those stores, or it's a very competitive. They're competing with Amazon and everything else. I would say out of all the people that I knew, I think there's 2 or 3 people still working with that company in particular. And it's amazing, man. But it's hard. It's hard not to get your head lopped off in today's world.
yeah, yeah.
And
Well, I
yeah,
think Tony Chachere's is a mainstay. I mean, I don't know. It's just not one of those products that's just going to disappear. So it's just in everybody's house for the most part. So the reason that I know him, believe it or not, it's I got to give credit to Cheryl and Barb from Manhattan, Kansas, and they work for Hy-Vee, which is a supermarket chain up there. Hy-Vees are awesome. We don't have them. There's Barb. Barb is sitting right next to me at that table, and that's Cheryl at the next table over to my right. And they're super people, absolutely salt of the earth type people. And they really are. They're great. And they're super fans of the First 48. And believe it or not, Doug actually is he's a crime connoisseur as well. when he actually watches a lot of that stuff to the point where, what's that story you told me about? I think one of your kids was talking to you about watching all that.
yeah. I used to when I raised my kids, and I went to bed early one night. I had my door closed and the TV was on, and it was one of the crime shows on, and no, at my old house, and my daughters whispered to each other. I had two daughters and a son in the middle, and the daughters whispered. They said, "What is Dad watching? What now?" But the truth be told, that youngest one that said that, she went on to North Texas and got into forensics, and then they cut out the program, and she got a criminal justice degree. So there's something to
Yeah.
be said. Well, she'll never give me credit for it, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny, man.
Well, the same for me. I mean, that's how I ended up getting involved in it. It's just because of you get exposed to something in the criminal justice world, and the next thing you know, that's something you want to do. But so what ended up happening was is Doug had reached out to them and said, I think I want to make them some. I'm going to make them some Cajun food. I'm gonna come up and I'm going to cook for them. And so he got in contact with me, and once we ironed out when it would be a good time, which is kind of a difficult time, and there's Doug right there next to John and some of the others that were there. Jeff Gatwood standing there next to him, proud as can be, and we all were really happy. So Doug goes, I asked Doug, I said, hey, so where are you going to cook this at? And he's like, oh, I'll figure it out. I'll cook it at the hotel or something. I said, no, you're not. You're going to come over here and cook it at my house. You come over here and cook it here. And so he did, and it was really a lot of fun, and that's where I really got a good chance to meet him. And you can look at my wife; she's just amazed at first she was like, "What? You're having some stranger come over here?" I'm like, "It's not a stranger. He's cool. Don't worry about it." And we've been friends ever since. And he whipped up. What was it that you whipped up that time, Doug?
I think
Because I've never.
it was just a little chicken and gravy, I believe, that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, Doug he's introduced me to things that I've never eaten before. It's this Cajun dishes, and I know people are going to think I'm crazy. I'd never had gumbo before until Doug made it for me, and that's us sitting down there in Houston. I'd never had crawfish before either. And so Doug says, no problem. We're going to get about, I don't know, I think he ended up getting like 8 pounds of it. That's one of his favorite places. And so we had crawfish that day, and everything that he's introduced me to has been absolutely fantastic, and it's been a fun time to get to know you. Not only that, but I did get introduced from Cheryl and Barb to Scotty Austin. Scotty Austin actually is the former lead singer of Saving Abel, and he went out on his solo career, and Scotty very well. And how did that come about that you ended up even meeting him or getting involved in the music industry? Because that's a whole nother, man, that's a big part of your life, is that?
It's weird. The Scotty thing, or what do you which one do you want first?
Either, both, but go pick which one you want to go with.
I get the music thing started first. I guess around 2010, I started going out and seeing live music. And again, it had been years. And somebody I had taken out on a date, and just wasn't the right thing, but we remained really good friends. And she wanted to introduce me to the guy she was seeing then. I said, yeah. And he was in a band in Dallas, and it was a band called Rivethead. They still play today. And I quit, I was talking to him, and we were having a great conversation, but these guys are trying to load in equipment. So I just started helping because, I didn't want to be a jerk and, like, hey, this guy's got a job to do. So that kind of started it. So I started finding out that you can go and see live music, and cover bands are great. I love them, and tributes, but go and see some original music, man. There's so many talented artists around this country, but that led to, just getting into the Dallas music scene. And then I pretty much came down here with friends here and did the same thing in Houston. And then one of the promoters that was in the Houston area has passed on, John Janash. He was sick at the time. This is when he was battling this. So this guy went through like 49 rounds of chemo, which it was almost a record. He wanted to pass it just to keep going, man. And I was out at this house. They were building it, and I had sold my other houses when things were going good with the real estate market, and I had like almost a 3-month gap between I'd have a place to live. So I was living at a friend of mine's in the country, and drove 40 minutes to my new house to see how the building was. And this guy John calls me and says, hey, Saving Abel is over here, blah, 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 tonight in town. And man, they just love to meet you. And I was like, I would do anything for John. I love music too, but I was in the middle, but I said, yeah, I'll be there. So I had to go back to my friends and another hour back to that place. And I met them all, and they were fantastic people, all of them, and and he Scotty and I became really close because we're both we end up on the topic of Call of Duty and the game, and you know, he just happened to mention. I was like, wait a minute, I play. So when I'm in town during the week, and if he's in town during the week, him and I and his wife get together and we play. So
Yeah, she's super nice too.
well,
And so yeah, she's great. And I think honestly, I think I got to meet him. I went up to St. Joe, Missouri, to St. Joseph's, Missouri, and I watched him play. And you talk about somebody that rocked the house. I mean, uh, I'm a rock fan. I mean, I've loved rock music my whole life. You know, music in general. It doesn't even have to be rock. It's any kind of a genre of music. I love it. And he went in there and he played. I mean, like it was his last show he was going to play. It was really something to see. And
he's
his
very
drummer,
soulful. Yeah,
oh man, and the drummer, everybody was great. They were just fantastic and just personable before and after the show. It was really fun to watch. That's why I'm really enjoying the fact that his career, I think it's really on the cusp of really breaking through. I mean, he's been, you know, he was with Saving Abel for a long time anyway, so he knows what it's like to play to huge crowds. But sometimes when you go out on your own, it's somewhat of a gamble. But I think it's really going to break out big time. And he's got a world tour about ready to start.
yeah. He's leaving. He's left already. They're making their way down through Florida. Then they take it off going to Central America. From there, they're going to, I think it's Australia first, and Southeast Asia, then Japan. Then they go to Egypt and all that. But I think this run is, I think this is Central America, South America, Australia, and Southeast Asia right now.
Yeah, it's freaking awesome. And that's big time. And as a matter of fact, he's going to be playing at the Whiskey A Go Go. I think it's October the 14th in Los Angeles. And guess who's going to be there? I'm going to be there. And I don't know if are you going to be there, Doug?
I'll be there.
Well, then you're going to be stopping. Then you're going to be stopping by the place that I'm going to be renting too, because I got a place rented in Laurel Canyon. So heck yeah, we're both going to be there and so's Tina. So yes, you got to see him at the Whiskey, man. That's a historic place right there.
Yeah,
and I know he's already played there, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so and then the other person that I'll tell you what, you introduced me to Jordan Newman from Framing the Red. And I had never heard of that band either. And when we started, and I'm mentioning these bands to you, ladies and gentlemen, because I'll tell you what, if you like Southern rock, Framing the Red, I was shocked when I left your place down in Alabama. I was like, Tina and I were looking at each other, going, "This is some good stuff," and it really was. It was great. So, and he's an awesome person too, just really down to earth. So, of all the bands, and not to single anybody out, but name a couple of bands that you could mention that right now that you just think, because you go more than anybody I've ever seen. You've went to some of the coolest venues. You've been to that one. What's that one called in Flint, Michigan? That's like the
Machine Shop.
Yeah, the Machine Shop.
I love the Machine Shop.
Yeah, and so all these different places. Who is the band that you would say is worth watching right now for people to check out on Spotify after this show?
Man, there's some good. It depends on what level you talk about. You know, I would say try out. It depends. There's different tastes, but check out Lucid Illusions, 307 Departure, and I can't remember the name of the band right now, but you know, it comes and goes. But yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of good ones. I mean, you can find good music in any town. You just have to go and give it a try. And those bands that are coming up, go to a live show. We're talking $10, $25 maybe to get in if it's a bigger act. But yeah, Newfound Glory, a good band. And if you go
not only that, you'll probably get to meet them.
Yeah,
they'll talk to you.
You know, these bands that you see, people see that they do millions of spin, you know, like Drowning Pool with Bodies and all that. Man, they get like 0.0003 to every time that there's something that's played. So it's how they make money is touring and selling merch. and that's it. So yeah, and they're out. They're actually like I'm doing an advertising for them. Drowning Pool is in Europe most of this year, and a few other countries. Next year they'll come back for the 25th anniversary of their album Sinner, which should be it'll be a huge tour for them next year. But
Yeah, which by
there's tons of good music out there, man.
yeah, which by the way, Doug says, "Hey, I'm coming to Tulsa. Drowning Pool's going to be there. You want to go?" And I was like, "Heck yeah, I want to go." And so when we went up there, Doug was kind enough to take me onto the tour bus.
Yeah,
Which,
man.
you
Killers
know,
yeah.
I was like a kid in a candy store. Are you kidding me? I was like, I've got to meet some people before. I escorted Leonard Skinner to their hotel once, and I got to meet somebody from Incubus and the Deftones and Bobby Blotzer from Rat and stuff like that. So I've met a few, but I can tell you what, it's pretty freaking epic to be able to go on a tour bus. and that's all because of Doug. So I really do appreciate it. And he was awesome. He was making sure that I was good the whole time, and of course I was right there at the front of the stage, and the band even was acknowledging me while they were playing their songs, which was freaking, once in a lifetime. It was cool. So what's now, you do have a podcast, and your podcast is called The Nonsense Chronicles.
That is
And
correct.
first of all, love the name, love the logo. And I think it's great. So, and I don't know if I'm still your number one listen to episode. And if I'm not, that's okay. Cause you've had some just incredible
No,
guests.
actually you are. And we were on every platform, and then we started, since Google shut down their podcast, their audio podcast, a lot of things went to YouTube, and you're on YouTube. We moved them to YouTube themselves, a bunch of them. In fact, well, our whole catalog is there now. Been there for about the last 2 months. So those numbers are different than the audio numbers, but your numbers, like off of Apple and Spotify and all that, you've been number one. We did it was funny on the when we started on YouTube, I started promoting them a little bit, and we did one on a nudist camp, because we'll talk about anything. Well, most things. We won't talk politics, but anything fun or to uplift your fellow human being, we'll talk. And I just was curious. I was like, okay, hey, somebody I knew worked at one. I said, somebody's cousin, and I said, okay, hey, let's have that guy on. And yeah, that's what Rob said. The numbers on that shot up, so he said, well,
Really?
that's what sells apparently. Or we did one on, man, this was amazing. Netflix had just started that,
I already know where you're going.
the poop cruise episode. Well, I knew one person. I didn't realize that person was on that cruise until our producer told us. And she said not only was she on, but her friend and they'll come and be on the show. So we had them on, and that show did pretty solid as well.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And the originally the kind of the genre of your show was music, and what else?
Music and food related. Like I got to go to a charity dinner tomorrow night, and I know the chef. I want to have him on from a place in Dallas, and but I want to talk about anything that's uplifting to human beings, something exciting. I tell you what, cold plunges we had. I was curious about cold plunges. I guess about it during COVID, people I'd see doing them, and I started doing them sporadically, and then I was more curious about it. So I called a company out of Miami, Florida, I think, that was putting together those tubs and stuff like that. And I said, hey, I want somebody from my podcast, and I want somebody that's going to give me an expert opinion. I know a good bit about it, but I want somebody who can go even deeper than me. And there was a doctor out of Houston, and he came. They referred me to, and he came on our show. So topics or things like that I'm curious about, we'll talk about. And
Yeah. And actually, if you were to tune into his show, I did 2 of them with him. The first one was just basically about the first 48 and kind of just kind of what it's like to be a homicide detective. And then the second one, we really dove in and talked more about cold case homicides.
Yes,
And
we did.
that's what we did. And I'll tell you something that'll interest you a little bit, Doug, is, I was talking to somebody last night, and I was talking to somebody that's a cop up in Idaho, and he's actually a detective up in Idaho, and he actually helped work on that Kohlberger case. So it was fascinating to listen to him about how much stuff that was reported wasn't exactly the real deal. There's a lot more to that story, and I'm really hopeful that I'm going to be able to talk to him at length about that later, a little bit more in depth.
Well, yeah, no kidding, no trial, so God knows what wasn't said.
Yeah, well, there's a lot more to it for sure. I think that I'll tell you, just the way they worked the case, and I'm going to try to get him on down the line if he's allowed. It's always weird, and you probably run into this from time to time. You'll probably run into a guest from time to time that they're like, well, I don't know. And I don't know that we can be transparent about just what we do.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to dance around things. Yeah.
You do. But I'd really, yeah. And I'll tell you, that's a case that I really want to know a lot more about. And one of the things that I'd asked him, and I'll just mention this real quick, because this isn't like crazy secret, but I was like, why did they tear the house down so darn quick? I mean, I would have thought that they would have wanted to keep that potentially for the jury, maybe, and the response that he gave me, I thought was really good. And it was like they were spraying stuff inside of that house to try to find blood that they weren't able to see. And it wasn't luminol or Blue Star. It was some other different type of a chemical that smelled really funky. And for health reasons, really, it was like a toxic environment for them to continually go in and out of. And that was one of the reasons. And I thought, okay, explaining it that way, that makes sense. And there's no sense in having people getting cancer from going in on a scene, but I was still just like fascinated by that. And he goes, believe me, they did more scans on that thing than you can believe. But it's still just having it there, me being just like you, Doug, I'm sure that you're kind of interested in the different places and so forth.
Yeah, I didn't, my thing was and me and you have talked about this when we've traveled a little bit, is and I've listened to Tom Lang and the other guy out there with the county. There's not as many serial killers these days, and this guy, I'm no cop, but he seemed like he would have qualified for what's next if they wouldn't have caught him so fast.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think he's just a straight up sociopath / psychopath, whichever way you want to call him. I mean, he has no human emotion, really. So yeah, I also talked to just recently. I've communicated with Kato Kalin from OJ, and yeah.
Yeah, I watch the show he's on with Tom Brenner. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and that's a good show too. And I highly recommend, if you're interested in checking him out on that. They talk a lot about the OJ case, and they've revisited scenes. See, you watch, what is it? You watch, you probably listen to about 5 podcasts to every TV show. So you're a podcast connoisseur, right?
Yeah, I do several on on Apple, and I do some on Spotify. Then there's some on YouTube. I subscribe to YouTube Prime. It's the one that's like $19 a month. It's the best 17 or 19 bucks you spend, and it's no ads, the premium version. And so I get all the podcasts at nighttime. I'll queue them up and listen to them while I'm working on stuff.
So what is that now? It's like basically you just get the Prime on Amazon, so you can.
No. I'm sorry. It's called YouTube Premium.
Okay.
And
what's that all about? Because I'm not really familiar with that.
Well, it's great. I mean, you don't get, first off, you don't get any ads. Secondly, you can queue shows. Like if I want to watch Jason White's catalog, I can do one after the other. Hey, I want to listen to this one next though, so I can make that one play, and they'll keep going, which is amazing. The other ones will stop with ads and everything else.
Yeah.
Not with premium. And it's, in today's society, it's probably one of the best spins you can make.
Okay, good to know. I love it. Maybe I'm gonna have to subscribe to that along with the others that I'm already on. But that sounds like really good advice. Who's a couple of the guests that, if you could have anybody on your show, and I'm talking anybody, and I know this is putting you a little bit on the spot, but who, and you know a ton of people, man. You know, I'm sure you know celebrities beyond musicians, just because celebrities, I'm sure you know a handful of those. Who would you have on your show if you could have anybody? A couple of them, maybe, or musicians. I'm just interested.
Well, I would like to. I'd love to have, but I know he's getting up there. Is Jim Douglas or is it James Douglas? We've talked about him before.
Oh, John Douglas, the
John
profiler.
Douglas. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I wouldn't think that he'd be unattainable.
Man,
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. You know, the only thing you can do is tell you no. You know,
that's right.
there's, you know, Rudy Sarza he was a bass player for Ozzy, and bass player for Ozzy, Whitesnake, Dio, and Quiet Riot, and he's willing to come on. So I'm going to probably have him on. I think he's he's got a really busy schedule, believe me, because I think he still tours with Quiet Riot. But he's going to come on. And I know that this isn't a podcast really about musicians, but sometimes it's just kind of cool to go outside the box to have like a Doug Chachere come on and stuff like that. Just I like people like Doug, because Doug is one of those individuals that has worked. He's a worker, and he's somebody that actually is making a difference just in the world of people, and he treats people right and so forth. So who else? Anybody else?
I don't know. You know, it always changes. It's just something that's, you know, whatever fascinates me. I told you I'm a collector of people, and I like good people around me, you know, and I usually pop in for 45 minutes to see all of them, and then I'm out. You know, my friends will say that about me. I ghost them. They call me the ghost, but I disappear quick. But I love to stop in and see people, you know, and who knows what the next person. I've made arrangements. We hadn't set the date yet, but the people at the last Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon, are going to be on the show.
No kidding. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, are they like the owner or?
Yeah,
or
the person, the general manager, is going to be on, and that's the only Blockbuster left, you know. So
yeah,
it's just
I
stuff
bet
that
I bet they get inundated with people just stopping in there just to walk in there.
I went. Let me tell you what it is. That's exactly what it is right now during the summer. People go in there just to looky-loo. I mean, so many people go to take pictures in front and all that. I mean, while I parked there, I sat there. I got there about 20 minutes before they opened, and I just watched people go by and selfie and everything else. But no, I walked in and I said, I wanted to get merch for Rob and his wife and for my wife. I said, please tell me you have merch. And he said, oh, yeah. I was like, good. And because, you know, I'm not here to get a tape. I wasn't kind and be the rewind, you know, but they have all kind of merch and stuff like that there. But yeah, it's very unique, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Who would have thought that you know, that was a huge business that just all of a sudden was gone overnight, essentially.
I didn't think Netflix was that big of a deal with the envelopes you'd send out and they'd send you back, but look how that turned around, man.
Yeah, right. So and I will mention this, I'm just curious, I'll ask you this, is how was your trip to the West Coast? Because did you tell me that you'd never been to California? Is that right?
Well, I've been to California, but I hadn't been to Northern California. I hadn't been to San Francisco. I hadn't been to Oregon or Washington, and I loved it. And, you know, I went to Idaho and Utah as well. I had never been to other states. And I switched from jogging and walking to hiking because now I love it, you know, going out there in the nature. So I went through some waterfalls. The Oregon coast is probably the most beautiful place I've seen in this country. And it's the only thing that Oregon is really bad about is no cell service. They're terrible. But it was a beautiful drive going into in the Bay Bridge in San Francisco, coming in, and the fog's rolling into the town in mid-afternoon. I'm like, wow, look at this. This is amazing.
Yeah, it doesn't even look real, does it?
No, went Fisherman's Wharf, you know, with Peter Dante from the Adam Sandler movies, him and Aaron Nordstrom, singer, and we had a great dinner out there. We had a really good time.
Yeah, Scotty, you know, it was funny because Scotty was texting me and he goes, "You're not going to believe who I'm sitting with right now, and we're actually working on your song for this podcast. You know, the one that he wrote the music to." And he said it was Peter Dante, who, if you don't know who he is, he's played in a bunch of Adam Sandler movies. He was the quarterback in Waterboy. That was dogging on him. But anyway, I guess he's got a music background too. He looks like a really cool guy for sure.
I never expected that out of him, but he does. He is very good. He's very musically entertaining, and he does the simplest songs you would think almost like a little reggae beat or something, and man, it very catchy. I loved it, and they've been doing a singer songwriter type deal, like in the old days where you'd have like the country guys, Johnny Cash would get together with Chris Christopher, and they'd all sit around and play each other's songs. Well, that's what this is. They had their regular band like Scotty does, but then they'll break off and they'll do this and they play each other's songs, and it was just amazing. It was fan because I love harmonies, and they were doing a good job. And see, somebody asked what I think of Washington. I love Washington. I wanted to go to Mount St. Helens. I saw Hood, and I got Three Sisters in, but the Highwayman. Exactly. But I tried to go to Mount St. Helens, but the road I want to go to, the Johnson Observatory, is closed till 27. I'm going up to Everett, Washington, around Seattle in October, and I'm going to swing around and try and get a good access point that I can see St. Helens, because I want to see the north side. I want to see the side that, it blew out on. It was a big deal when I was growing up, so.
Me too. Yeah, I remember it, 1980. I remember when that went off, and I used to have a little plastic canister full of ash from that, and I don't know what the heck happened to it over the years, but I had one from that, and I remember that vividly on the news going on and stuff. That thing is still kind of grumbling a little bit right now. I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that there's a little bit of activity going on with that right now. So, but anyway, no, that's cool. Hey, by the way, did you get to go out on Alcatraz? I hope you did.
No, I was in San Francisco for one night and one night only, and
okay.
I don't even know if I saw, because I don't think I did, because it was so foggy. It was extremely foggy when I got there. We got there at about 3 and started parking all our vehicles and stuff, and it took a while. But I love San Francisco. It was beautiful.
Oh, it's actually, like if you haven't been to San Francisco, I will just say this, and I was born in San Jose, but when I ended up speaking close to there, and I'll tell you what, it's one of the most beautiful cities. It's really a tragedy that there's stupid stuff like people going to the bathroom on the sidewalks and stuff. But that city is gorgeous. It really is. It is a pretty city. The Golden Gate Bridge is one of the most beautiful structures that there is in this country. And if anybody gets a chance to go visit Alcatraz, you included, Doug, you need to do that, because Alcatraz is epic. It's the best tour I've ever been on in my life. And if you do it, do the night tours. From what I've been told, the night one is much better. I want to say this, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to, tell us the website of the Chachere Company, where people can get virtually anything that you guys sell. Because if they walk into the local Walmart in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I already can tell you with firsthand experience, because I actually told you, I said, Doug, I can't find a gumbo box in the store here. And we did find there's jambalaya. They have that, but they don't have the gumbo. So if you needed something like that, just check out their website and see what they've got. Because they sell everything online, to include mitts, shirts, whatever.
Yeah, TonyChachere's.com.
That's pretty easy.
That's easy. Yeah. We're on Instagram, Facebook. You can find links to it. In fact, our store even has its own page, I believe, now too. So
yeah, check it out, everybody. I've seen a couple of people say, hey, I've never had gumbo. I've never had Creole anything. They're spicy. Don't worry. It's an awesome thing just to sprinkle on a steaks. It doesn't matter what it is. If you can eat it and it's edible, you sprinkle it on it and it makes it better. That's it. And a lot better.
Tony Chachere's makes good food taste great. So yeah, just a little bit. Don't over-season your food. It's there to help. It's there to bring that flavor out. It's better always be under-seasoned than over.
And finally, what about now? If they want to find your podcast, it's on virtually everything. Is that right?
The Nonsense Chronicles podcast. Yeah, it's everywhere.
All right. So Nonsense and do you have merch for that too? If somebody loves the show and they want merch, is that possible, or is that something you're looking at doing in the future?
We've got some, but we're doing it mainly promotional stuff. Is when we get out and tour around a little bit, we'll do that. But not right now. We're not selling it right now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And you're an avid watcher of the show, and I appreciate that, Doug. I really, because he'll send me messages periodically. Was there any of the episodes that you just kind of stands out to you out of this show that you were like, okay, I really liked that one?
I like them all, man. Like I said, I just the thing, and I told you this when I first went to Tulsa was I was just really curious about that interrogation room. I had to see it, because it seems very claustrophobic to me. So yeah, how y'all do y'all jobs, man? I said when people are gonna purposely not tell you the truth multiple times,
Yeah.
in my line of work, that would just make me face palm like for an hour. But kudos to y'all, man, for the heart and people like John Brown that went out there and did it his whole
Yeah.
life, man. God bless him.
Yeah. It sucks part of our life out of us, trust me. But we have to try to do, better for society, and we have to just, work harder to be the best that we can be. And if you were to Google who's the most successful homicide unit in the country, guess what? Tulsa Police Department is going to be the first name that pops up. So if you don't believe me, try it. And somebody just told me that, and I was like, "Are you serious?" And it was true. So I thought, well, that's pretty cool. Now we're going to have to work harder just to keep it. But anyway,
Yeah.
nevertheless, hey, listen, Doug, I can't thank you enough for being here, buddy. You really are somebody that I know that I could always reach out to. You've kind of been a little bit of a mentor when it comes to podcast stuff. You've given me some suggestions and along the way, and it really is appreciated. And I know that our paths are going to cross again more than once. And so I can't think. Oh, well, we're going to see each other at the Whiskey A Go Go, and we're going to have a time of our life. So I'm really looking forward to that, buddy. And anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you have joined us for tonight's episode, I appreciate that. I get your spice, run out there. And I'll tell you something. I didn't mention this. That stuff is not expensive. It's not some spice that when you're running up there going, oh my gosh, that's like, no, this isn't that. It's actually one of the lesser expensive spices. They've kept that price down somehow in the world that we're living in for you, the consumer. So that's good. But like I said, go down there, give it a shot, and you'll love it. I promise. I know that my wife likes the spices and herbs, and that's kind of one of her go-tos, and I like the original as well. And Danny, you'll get your cup one day, and I'll get you a spice thing too. That's one of my other part-time host that's helped me out a few times. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you once again, and for all the kind comments that you have given us. Next week's guest, I don't know who it is, but I'll tell you, we're going to try to get somebody. But the week after that, listen, it's going to be Mark Lamb, the former sheriff from Pinell County in Arizona, who was on 60 Days In. That's how a lot of people know him. And he's actually probably one of the top 3 to 5 sheriffs in this country. Do you know him, Doug? Do you know who I'm talking about? Mark Lamb?
I'd have to see his picture probably.
He wears a cowboy hat, and he was running for senator in Arizona. And
I'll say he must be out of Arizona.
he is Pinell, Arizona, and he's a really, really fun guy. He's a guy that you see a lot on Fox or one of those talking head shows and stuff like that. So he'll be here in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to him, and hopefully you guys will go to my YouTube page, Detective Jason White. I was told that the merchandise was going to drop from KGRA. I was told it was going to be August the 8th. Thank you for that, Danny. I appreciate it. I think it was an awesome show too. Or it's Pima County, not Pinell. Pima, they're kind of next to each other. So anyway, or I think it's Pima. It's one of the two. It doesn't matter. He's from 60 Days In, and he's great. And then also, I can't remember the merchandise is supposed to drop. It was supposed to drop today. I looked it up on the website from KGRA. I didn't see it on there, but it's coming. And there's going to be some awesome coffee cups, hats, and other things. I don't know. I haven't seen all the pictures of everything, but it looks really great. So if you get a chance, check that out. But please tell your friends and family, if you like this show, to go ahead and go to my YouTube page and to like and subscribe. Remember, like and subscribe. Thank you. And I appreciate that very much, ladies and gentlemen. It means the world to me. Every single subscriber I appreciate. And I've gotten some incredible comments that have been left on there, and I know you do, Doug, too. And so that's very appreciated. We, as the YouTuber or the YouTube or podcasters, we actually read that stuff, and we're trying to better it to make it. It's not like we're making any money. Are you making a ton of money on your podcast, Doug?
We just pushing and pushing, man. We're not ready to retire yet.
No, that's right. So anyway, we're trying to put good content out there for people. And is there anything else that you'd like to say, Doug, in closing?
No, but thanks to all the guests, and thank you all for having us. I really do appreciate it, and we're very grateful.
Absolutely. Until the next time, till next week, we'll see you. We'll see you then, and I'll post something up about who the guest is going to be. Thank you all for being here. Take us out, Amanda.